Chapter 11. Peter of Haarlem. On that bright spring day, a little boy, whose name is said to have been Peter and whose father was a sluicer, had for his dinner some cakes. His mother had baked them because she knew how much Peter liked them. Peter was a very unselfish boy, and whenever he had anything he liked, his first thought always was to share it with someone else. So, as soon as he had finished his meal, he jumped up from the table and begged his mother to let him go see a poor blind man who lived not far away, and to let him carry with him those cakes which had not been eaten. His mother was pleased with Peter's thoughtfulness. And at once brought a basket filled with cakes for him to carry to the invalid. While Peter's father was making him promise not to stay out too late. Soon the boy was on his way to his friends, happy in the thought of the pleasure his present would give the blind man. The old man was delighted with the cakes, and at once broke and ate one. He began to tell Peter one of the stories for which he was famous, and which he knew Peter loved to hear. But Peter suddenly remembered his promise not to stay out late, and finally became so uneasy that he told the old man he must not wait to hear the end of the story. Hastily bidding him farewell, he started towards home. His path lay beside the dike, and along its grassy banks grew beautiful wild flowers of many varieties. The flowers were so attractive that Peter decided to pick a bunch of them to carry home to his mother, who was so much of an invalid that she rarely left the house. So he picked a few here and a few there, blue and yellow and pink, until he had a handful of those varieties of which he knew his mother was most fond, and walked on. To keep himself from feeling lonesome, he hummed a gay little song. Suddenly he stopped, and neither sang nor smiled, as he looked at a slender thread of water trickling through the grass. Where did it come from? Surely not from the canal, and there was nowhere else for it to come from, unless it came from the dike itself. The thought was enough to make even a child turn pale and tremble. Only the dike stood between the boundless sea and the safety of little Holland. He looked again, and to his imagination the stream seemed greater already. What could he do? Night was coming on. The road was a solitary one. There was only the barest chance of anyone passing that way whom he might hail, or of whom he could ask advice. Then came a quick recollection of his promise to his father, and he started homeward again. But a force as mighty as a giant's grasp made him turn back again to watch that trickling stream of water. He was near one of the great oaken sluices, and bounding up beside it, he carefully examined the dike. There, as small as his finger, was a hole, and through that little hole was flowing the stream of water at his feet. Like lightning, the flash of intuition came to Peter. If that hole were not plugged instantly, the force of the flow through it would rapidly increase from the pounding of that mighty sea behind it. In a night, the flood would break through the dike and perhaps destroy all the homes in Holland. What could he do? No stone would fit the hole. No amount of earth packed into the crevice could resist the pressure of the water. Peter was desperate. Forgotten now were his bunch of flowers, which fell unheeded from his hand. He strained his eyes in a vain search for travellers on that lonely road. Vainly he shouted out for help until his throat was hoarse. What could he do? An idea struck him. Climbing again up the steep bank from stone to stone, he thrust his finger in the hole, and it fitted. It stopped the trickling water for the moment. But, oh, what would happen when he took it out? Ah, it was as clear as daylight. What to do? He would not take it out until someone should come to relieve him. Forgetful of what this idea might bring to him if carried out, he chuckled with a boyish delight in this real adventure. He said to himself,
The water can't come down now. Haarlem shall not be drowned while I am here to keep the flood back.
For a while, excitement kept him warm and fearless. Then the chill darkness of the night surrounded him. All sorts of strange noises fell upon his unaccustomed ears. He seemed to see giants and demons lurking near, ready to pounce upon him and kill him. Although he was a sturdy lad, tears came at last. He could no longer keep back thoughts of his comfortable bed at home, of the parents who might be even then worrying about his safety. However, as he had stayed a night with the old man once before, his parents had probably gone to sleep without worrying too much. And Peter was out in the dark night alone, in such misery and pain. The pain grew greater, the misery harder to bear every moment now, and still Peter kept his finger in that dangerous hole. He tried to whistle, hoping to attract the attention of a passing traveler, but his teeth chattered so much that he gave it up. Suddenly he remembered what he had been taught at his mother's knee, and prayed to the great God who could control the surging sea and protect the boy who was doing his best. If he ever prayed with his whole heart, he prayed so that night in the darkness. When his prayer was said, he somehow felt braver, stronger, and older than before, and in his heart he said,
I will not take it out till someone comes. I will stay till morning.
He was not sure if he could draw his finger out of the hole even if he wished to do so. It felt so strangely numb. Why did it feel like knives were cutting and pins pricking him from head to foot? What would happen if no one ever found him? No one ever came to help? At last, the rose and silver of the dawn flushed the sky. Day had come, and along that lonesome road came the first traveler in all the hours of Peter's vigil. A priest whose night had been spent by the bedside of a sick person was hurrying homeward on the path beside the dike. He heard a groan, a feeble sound of someone in a lot of pain. Turning, he glanced, first here and there, and looked up. At last he saw the child writhing in agony. In a single bound, the priest was beside him, exclaiming,
In the name of wonder, boy, what are you doing here? I am keeping the water from running out,
said Peter.
Oh, can't you ask them to come quick?
And they did. The town of Haarlem, even Holland itself, had been saved through the courage of a little boy who did his duty. From that day to this, there has not been a single child in Holland who has not heard the stirring story of Peter, whose name will never be forgotten.